guys. Welcome to Against the Grain, where Renegades chat. We've got a perfect guest for today. I actually found Against the Grain used in his book a couple times. Steve Yellin is with us to talk about the art of fluid motion. And I'm excited to get into this. I'm looking forward to seeing what Steve has got to bring to the table in terms of the mental side of performance. It's something that we don't typically get into with modern mainstream instruction. But I think it is a vital component of performance in the golf world. So, Steve, welcome. This is special for me. Let's start off with one of the first things I didn't know about you. What's it like to be one of the few humans on the planet that's beaten John McEnroe at tennis?
Well, it's an interesting story, George. First of all, I love the title of your podcast, Against the Grain.
Thank you.
Fighting a little cough, against the grain. So I was a senior at University of Pennsylvania, and we had a pretty good team. We were actually in the middle of the Ivies. Princeton and Harvard always had really good teams, but we were up there, and we had a match against a team from Port Washington in New York, where Harry Hopman was the Davis Cup captain for Australia for many, many years, 30 years, a real legend. So I walk on the court and I see this little punkish kid. He was about 15 years old at the time. And I said, okay, we got no problems here today, Stevie boy. And then he hits three balls. My jaw drops. I've never seen anybody hit a ball like this. It was such minimal motion with such pinpoint accuracy, and I knew that I was in the presence of a prodigy. Fortunately, I had my A game going that day. It was my favorite surface, indoor clay. So we're playing, and his racket's going all over the place, which is great if you're playing someone. You want them to keep throwing the racket. But he came back when he threw the racket, and he played really well, even after he threw the racket. But anyway, we split sets. I think he more or less gave up in the third set. I beat him 6-love. And then 2 years later, I turn on the TV and he's playing Jimmy Connors in the semifinals of Wimbledon. I just
awesome.
fell out of my chair. So that's the McEnroe story.
That's awesome. Now, I know you've worked professionally with tennis players and golfers. How did you make that transition from tennis into golf? Tell us, was it sports psychology that caught you up and gained your interest, or?
My program has nothing to do with sports psychology. I have no background in sports psychology. I've never even, I read one book on sports psychology, The Inner Game of Tennis, the first book. Fluid motion is produced identically regardless of the sport. So the body doesn't care if you're hitting a serve or putting or throwing a football or hitting a baseball. The exact same processes in the mind are in operation. So this program can be taught in any sport.
Okay. And how did what brought you to golf? Was it just that we are the field of players that need the most mental help, or is it that the industry lacks an understanding of this? Or
you have to make a distinction here, George. People, when they hear, first of all, this is a revolutionary program. It's never been taught. And again, it doesn't have anything to do with sports psychology. Sports psychology has to do with attitudes, emotions, beliefs, self-confidence, routine. I'm only interested in the processes in the mind that produce fluid motion during the 1.5 seconds it takes to generate a golf swing. So it's a mental program, but the revolutionary aspect is that it doesn't have anything to do with sports psychology.
Okay.
So we have to make that distinction.
Okay. So what field did you jump in? Is it the neurology of it?
No. What happened? Well, if you read I'm sure you read in the book.
I've almost got it knocked out. I'm about 120 pages in, so I'm about wrapping it up.
So
by the way, for everybody who's listening to this, Simplicity. Oh, wait, my green screen. There we go. Steve. There we go. By Steve Yellin, Simplicity. Pick it up. It's a great read. We're going to get into, I've got a lot of stuff highlighted and turned in there, but I wanted to make sure we plug that real quick.
So I had this zone experience when I was a senior at University of Pennsylvania on the tennis court. I played at a level I've never played before. It was absolutely extraordinary. It was a life-changing experience. Without that experience, this program never gets developed. So I wanted to understand what precipitated this, what was going on here. And it took me 2 or 3 days to realize what it was. It was very black and white. There was no gray area. And I wasn't even playing golf at the time. This was in 1975. And I thought it would take 2 or 3 years to come up with a program for tennis players to at least give them the opportunity to become more consistent and occasionally have these kinds of experience. Well, the arena from where zone experiences are generated from is the most subtle arena. And it really took a lifetime to understand all the nuances, all the laws of motion, just every aspect of that arena. And about 20 years ago, I gave a tennis lesson to a golf pro, and my program transformed someone almost instantly. It sets up the circumstances. It sets up the circumstances for them to produce fluid motion. And the mind wants to go to this arena. And what I do is I just sort of give it a gentle push. So he took a tennis lesson. Within 5 minutes, his whole tennis game changed. He called me up 2 weeks later and said, Steven, you know what? I can't get this tennis lesson out of my mind. I cannot believe what you did in such a short period of time. Can you do this in golf? He asked the $10 million question. Can you do it in golf? I never thought about it. I said, his name was Ed Hip, high school golf coach. I said, Ed, let me think about it. So once you put me on a task, George, that's it. That's all she wrote, baby.
Sure.
I was on it 24/7, and that was the beginning of formulating and developing this program. And the program went through many, many iterations because, again, the arena from where zone experiences, fluid motion is produced in a golf swing is very subtle. You cannot be a bull in a china shop, just go in there and say, okay, you know what, I'm going to just have a fluid swing and I'm going to demand it. Well, you'll be humbled in one swing. And often that's the case with golfers.
Sure. I mean, I don't think the average golfer doesn't realize how counterintuitive that actually is. And just for the people that are listening, the zone experience, I'll sum it up, is just the tunnel vision, I guess, that we experience as elite athletes, where really we're just kind of operating at a subconscious level. Would you kind of is that an accurate
I would say that we're operating on a subconscious level. I would not say tunnel vision.
Okay.
I would say expansive vision with the ability to focus in on a particular thing.
Got it.
In fact, I would say even more fundamental is that it's like cruise control. You just press the cruise control and you don't have to worry about how the engine is maintaining 60 miles an hour.
Right.
And as soon as you go in there and try to micromanage it, forget it. You're toast. You're done.
Right. Right. And I think that's one of the things that I like the best about here is you talk about operating from the concrete or the abstract.
Okay. So here's the thing, George. Okay. This program is not really Steven Yellin's program. Steven Yellin may be clever. He's not the creator. Fluid motion is produced identically for every athlete producing any motion in any sport. Now, just like the heart works one way, the lungs work one way, the kidneys work one way, producing fluid motion works identically. So it's all based on science. It's all based on neurophysiology. Now, and it's counterintuitive. And it goes against the grain. I mean,
right.
Big time against the grain. In fact, I was contemplating titling one of my book, Just the Opposite. It's just the opposite of what you think.
Right.
You think you have to focus in on the target. No, you want to make the target disappear, okay? You think you have to focus in on the swing. No, you don't have to focus in on the swing because once you produce muscle memory, the muscle memory can never be forgotten. What breaks down is the ability to access it. Now, the, the real substantial part of this program, one of the real substantial parts of this program, is a thorough understanding of the mind, which is not out there. It's absolutely not out there. Okay, sports psychologists get a glimpse at it. They sort of know the destination, but there's no systematic way that I've ever seen, or I've ever read, or I've ever been exposed to, that gets you there with a real specific do this, do this, do this, do this, right? So the mind is like an ocean. This is one of the fundamental principles of the program. The mind is like an ocean. You've got surface levels, very active, very analytical, and then the mind has the ability to settle down, to experience deeper levels of its own nature, more powerful levels of its own nature, and levels of its own nature where the creator said, this is where fluid motion is produced. Now, the body has the same scheme. You've got the gross, bulkier core muscles, which are very important for emotion. But if they dominate emotion, this is no bueno, you're not going anywhere. Then the body has different levels of intelligence. It's got the ability to fire the fast twitch muscles. It's got the ability to self-correct a swing, and it's got the ability to smooth out a swing. These are deeper levels of intelligence. Now, the secret sauce, which shouldn't be secret, everyone should learn this, right when they're 7, 8, 9 years old and they pick up a club. Every PGA player, every LPGA player should learn this. They don't know it, except those who have gone through the program. Scott McCarron, Gabby Lopez, Robert Allenby went through it. Trevor Immelman went through it, okay?
Some big names.
Yeah, his career was more or less over when he went through it. Is that during a motion, 1.5 seconds it takes to generate a motion, if you generate an intention from a surface level of the mind, you only have access to the surface level of intelligence of the body. But the way the whole thing works is that when you generate an intention from a softer, quieter level of the mind, you have no choice but to access the deeper level intelligence of the body. Yeah, so when you have your better ball striking day or your best ball striking day, it doesn't matter how you get there to a quieter, deeper level of the mind, you generated your intentions from this level of the mind, so you had access to this deeper level of intelligence of the body. When you go out the same day and you just stink up the course, same player, okay, same swing thoughts, same everything, you were generating the intentions from a surface level of the mind, so you only had access to the surface level of intelligence of the body. So the logical question is what is the environment that the brain physiology has to exist in order to generate intentions from a quieter level of the mind? This is the key. And it has to exist. There's two words that describe the environment that the mind has to exist in order to generate fluid motion. One is wholeness, and the other is abstraction.
Right.
The mind needs to be abstract.
Now, those are synergistic in terms of how you use the book, correct? Okay.
Totally. Okay. Abstract is just a little bit more abstract than whole. And I'll describe wholeness, because wholeness is what is that? It sounds very abstract. But I will tell you this. Trevor Immelman said, I will never win again unless my mind is more abstract, because I went to a place that was too concrete.
Right.
He won the Masters, and then he's working on a swing. What are you doing? You just won the Masters. What do you have to work on? Yeah. All you have to do is access that, right? So let me go into a deeper understanding of wholeness, all right? Well, you got a lot of tattoos on that
Just arm. A little bit. We got a few of them. I can't. What's going on with my green? Oh, it's the microphone is blocked out. There you go. Now you can see it. No,
that's a whole nother podcast. Okay. Yeah. So let's make wholeness abstract. Wholeness concrete. To give you an example, not that wholeness is concrete, but I want to give you a concrete example.
Sure.
And your audience is home. Are they listening to this live, or is this?
No. We'll get you. We'll get it all squared away and
compress all right.
Make us look all pretty and stuff.
Yeah. Good. How's my hair? Is it okay? All right. So you're behind the ball. You're setting up a shot. You're taking into consideration all the elements of the shot: the lie, the wind, the temperature, where you are on the round, what club you want to hit, how you want to shape it, what's the trajectory. Do you want to be conservative? Do you want to be aggressive? Now, there may be, and you have swing thoughts, okay? So we're going to take all these elements. Let's say there's 6 or 7 elements on every shot, correct?
Sure.
Correct, okay? And we're going to put them into a blender. Everyone's made a smoothie. We're going to make a golf smoothie. We're going to put it into the blender. Now, right before you pull the trigger, if one of those elements are pulsating over another element, don't hit it left, don't hit it right, get the club in this position, flight it like this, okay? Do this, do that. If one of those elements are pulsating, see how my finger is pulsating, and you do not have a threshold level of wholeness and you pull that trigger, well, if you don't have a threshold level of wholeness, the brain physiology has to exist in a threshold level of wholeness in order to sink the swing. If you don't have it before you pull the trigger and you pull the trigger, there's a song by Carole King called It's Too Late, Baby. It's too late.
Yeah.
If you don't have that threshold level of wholeness before you pull the trigger and you pull that trigger, you're going to do probably crisis management on the way down and even on the way back.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the things, go ahead.
Oh, go.
I was going to say, one of the things I do with my players is if they do not feel good, if they're not 100% good over the shot, they back out and they start that whole routine over again.
You do not know, George. You do not know from a deeper perspective how important that is. Now you know from a neurophysiological perspective.
Yeah, it's been a great read. I mean, one of the things that I've loved, and as a matter of fact, getting right into this, your analogy for money in the bank and being able to access money in the bank. As soon as those analytical, and as a matter of fact, Michaelides talked about this in the first interview with me. It's the technical development versus the skill development. And we've gotten so caught up in the technical that we are constantly in analytical mode, logical mode, rather than the creative state of mind or that abstract wholeness you're talking about.
This is so true. And what it is that unless a player or a coach can answer a very simple question, they will be searching all of their lives on how to teach someone to be consistent or how you can become consistent. And the question is very simple. How is fluid motion produced and why does it break down? You can ask Rory, he doesn't know. Bubba, he doesn't know. DJ, he doesn't know. In fact, when someone goes through my program, it doesn't matter what level, I ask them, let's just say you had the best ball striking day you've had in 3 months, and you walk off the course and someone asks you, Trevor, why did you play so well today? And I've asked them these questions, okay? If you ask them enough questions, they don't know. Will everything click? Well, what's this clicking? What does that mean? I don't know. Just felt good, right? Then the same player goes out. I call it the 65-75 syndrome. The next day, same swing thoughts, does everything he thought he did the previous day when he had an outstanding ball striking day, and he has a lousy ball striking day. And you asked him, well, what happened? He said, I don't know. I thought I was doing the same thing I was doing yesterday and had the opposite results. Now you think about this, George.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it is, oh, sorry, go ahead.
You think about this. These are professional golfers. They don't know what really happens when they play well, and they don't know what really happens when they don't play well. And it ain't the swing, because if it was the swing, well, why did you produce a good swing on one day and a poor swing and bad timing on the next? I don't know.
Right.
So they're living their professional lives in a state of doubt, anxiety, not and the light isn't there. Fear.
That's the worst one.
Fear.
That's the worst one.
Did you read my chapter on fear?
I haven't gotten there yet. Is it which chapter is it?
It's called Hitting the Wall. It's towards the end.
Okay, so where am I? I'm in swing prison. I was like, oh, I loved everything up until there, and swing prison was like, yep. So,
Exactly.
but to get back to the money in the bank thing again, I think, when we have that doubt or that fear over top of the ball, those pipe barriers that raise up out of the parking lot. Okay, that's almost what I feel like in your analogy. If I'm going to access my money in the bank and all of a sudden I bring that analytical or that technical thought into my mind, boom, those barriers come up and now my truck is stuck on.
So here's the thing, okay? That's brilliant. Exactly correct, George, okay? And there's 2 reasons why golfers do this. The first reason is they don't know that muscle memory doesn't break down. Now, this is very threatening to the golf industry, because a golf pro wants to feel we have to keep working on this, working on this. Well, no, you know, better is sometimes the enemy. Better is, because once a player is at a certain skill level, and the swing is solid, muscle memory doesn't break down, it's deposited in the basal ganglia. It's like saving money in a savings account. Once you have $10,000, it doesn't go away.
Right.
When a neuroscientist told me this, who worked with 2 Olympic teams, Norway and Denmark, he said, Steven, once you develop muscle memory, it doesn't break down. What breaks down is the ability to access it. Oh my goodness. You realize how mind-blowing, paradigm shifting, galactic expanding fact, it's not even an idea, fact this is. So all these guys, I didn't know it. I've been an athlete all my life. I didn't know it. I thought you had to reinvent it, or else, you had to live in checklist city. You had to do this, you had to do this. No, you don't have to do this. And the second reason why golfers, the majority of golfers, don't reach their potential is they don't know the environment the brain physiology has to operate in order to access their money in the bank. This is so fundamental that it's almost like the opposite analogy is you take your car to a mechanic, and the mechanic doesn't understand the engine. How's he going to fix the engine?
Right. Now, I think that's also part of, you're talking about how counterintuitive our modern training methods are to the mental game, but even to the physical game. Every golfer you ask, what can I give you on the lesson tee? They want to be more consistent. And so what we're doing is we're constantly searching for consistency in a game that constantly requires you to adapt. So, while you're training to ingrain that swing, the swing essentially has to be a little bit different every time to account for the shot, and again,
True.
if you're only you're not trying to focus on that one swing, you don't know how to make, let's use a master carpenter, for example. When he gets to a different board, or maybe there's an imperfection, he knows how to account for that little change and still achieve the goal. Most golfers do not know how to do that. You throw a little bit of change or a little variability in their game, and all of a sudden they're into that analytical state that you're talking about, which is the enemy.
Right.
So,
Right.
It hurts us on both sides. It hurts us on the physical, technical side as much as it does on and probably more so, I don't know, maybe than the mental side. This is all new to me. I mean, again, I've looked at it from mastery of different subjects and stuff, and I've looked into some sports psychology and stuff, but the idea that the muscle memory doesn't just disappear is, I think, very unique to you and your book, your fluid motion program.
It's not to me, it's to the human race. Now, the thing is you cannot separate the mental and the physical, because you cannot generate emotion without the brain physiology operating in a certain way.
Right.
So even when someone is learning mechanics, or even when someone is changing mechanics, the brain the information flows from the mind to the body. So the teacher tells the student, you're taking it too far on the inside, I want you to take it straight back. Well, the brain physiology has to operate in a certain way,
right,
in order for her to make this adjustment. So people say, I'm okay with the mental. Guess what? Everything is in the mind. Try swinging a golf club when you're sleeping, okay?
Right.
Or you're drunk. Well, actually, you probably play a little bit better. But
I don't. I don't do anything better when I'm drinking. That's why I don't drink.
Good.
Yeah.
So you can't separate the mind and the body, because the mind controls every aspect of the body. So when people say, okay,
Sure.
okay.
Sure. You and I understand. I mean, I'm just, for the average golfer. The average
Right.
golfer is going to have this concept that there's the mental game and the physical game, and and I know that the more that we, activate a certain muscular motion or whatever, the more we create that synopsis and strengthen that connection in the brain. Is there anything I would like to just go ahead? I think we're about to, let's see. Yeah, we're going to wrap up part 1 here. Is there anything that you would like to talk about in regard to your program? Where are you teaching? Would you like to plug something that you've got going on before we jump into our second part?
Because I'm not the Red Cross, George. I'm not the Red Cross. I do charge money, and actually I charge a lot of money, okay? Because the program will change your golfing career forever. There's 3 ways to learn the program. First is to buy the book on Amazon, Simplicity. Second is to buy a series of videos. I just recorded a new series of videos. Actually, I have 2 sets of videos. I have a shortened set, and then I have a 2.5-hour set that's going to be sold as a package. But the pièce de résistance, okay? You understand what that means? I know you speak French.
A little bit. I mean,
It's come and see me in Vero Beach. Come and see. I teach in Vero Beach because your game will be, when I can work with someone in person, I see their body language. It's a whole nother level.
Sure it is.
So my website right now is fluidmotiongolf.com. Fluidmotiongolf.com. You can contact me from my website.
Okay, awesome. And I'll make sure I plug those in the description of our podcast and our video. And we'll see if we can get some traffic over your way. I will see you in about 5 minutes for part 2.
You got it. Thanks, George.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, Steve.
Okay.